Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to have you all here. I know this is going to be a lively and engaging afternoon presentation. So welcome to National Distance Learning Week. I'm Erin Maney. If we haven't met, I'm the Manager of Communications and Community Engagement at SUNY Online. I have a very active puppy. So I'm going to try to keep him quiet. I'll be your moderator today. Just a few housekeeping items. If you could keep your mics muted unless we invite some questions, we'll certainly invite them in the chat. And if you could introduce yourself to let us know where you're from, that would also be great. I am thrilled to introduce our speaker today, my former colleague and good friend, Dave Ghidiu. Dave is an assistant professor in the Computing Sciences program at Finger Lakes Community College. He's also the director for the Center of Teaching and Learning. Dave's a champion of open content and open pedagogy. He works really hard to bring scholarship of teaching and learning to all his endeavors. And when he's not in class, you could find him at speaking engagements where he brings enthusiasm, knowledge, and empathy, all of which I'm sure you're going to be fortunate to experience today. So I will turn this over to Dave, and I'll put some links in the chat for you as to where you can find the recording and other information you might need to know. Thanks so much. And here you go, Dave.
Oh, thanks. So I'm just going to post real quick, and I put this in the chat, and I'll put this, at the end, I'll do this as well, but it's just my email address. Because if you have questions about what we're going over, I'd certainly love to talk with you, come out to your college and present this, or like help you present it, because I think this is a really valuable tool, and I really wish that I could take credit for it, but I can't. So at any rate, I want to talk to you about this software we developed at FLCC. Is actually in response to Blackboard, because when we were using Blackboard, the person who was teaching our JavaScript and HTML class, like, this is awful. I can't get the content the way that I want it to look. And I think I teased this last year. So if you came back from last year, thanks. That was the longest ever cliffhanger. But this is ready for prime time, and you can use it today. You can show it to everyone on your college campus. So let me show you what it does first, and then I'll show you how it works. And by the way, when we migrated from Blackboard to Brightspace, Aaron Sullivan, who was the creator of the software, was like, oh, like Brightspace, it's actually even easier and better to do in Brightspace. So that's where we are today. This is the software, let me see, basically makes your content look a lot more palatable, and it allows you to have like funky icons, and you can have the collapsible accordions. And this is stuff that when you're making your course and you're using the templates, you can kind of pick like an accordion, but then if you switch it to say like a tab thing, then it wipes everything out. You can only have one or the other. So Aaron, when he created this, is like, well, I want to make it so it's super slick, it's super easy. You can have everything all on one page. You don't have to worry about learning HTML or any of that. So, and actually, let me show you one other page, just so you kind of get a sense of what this is capable of. So I'm going to go into this. We'll go into networking and cybersecurity. In the networking and cybersecurity one, we're going to scroll down to this presentation for networking. And a lot of the classes that I teach are asynchronous online. So I'll have a lot of videos, but oftentimes students would email me like, hey, can I get that slideshow in the presentation? So in this particular case, we were able to like put the YouTube video of the recording, but also the slideshow so students could have it and do whatever they wanted. And so it's a way to kind of beautify your course. So this is what it looks like. That's not what it looks like at all. This is what it looks like. Is this piece of software here. And on the left over here, we're going to have where you write your content. And on the right side, the right panel is where it's going to render. So I'm going to start by showing you kind of what it looks like in the, and I'm going to kind of speed through the like itty bitty detail part, and then I'll come back to it. And by the way, if you have questions, just type in the chat Aaron, can you just keep an eye on the chat and see if anyone has any questions while
Yep,
we're doing
you
this?
bet.
Thanks. So if we were doing, say we're going over a networking cybersecurity class, actually we'll just do computer science class. So we'll say we're doing like if statements for Java. This is called the Jumbotron. This is what Brightspace calls it actually. And you can have any text. And for today, I'm going to use lorem ipsum, which is just filler text, just so we have something so you don't have to watch me type things. But I'm just going to paste some text in there. One of the big problems with Brightspace, well, any text editor is oftentimes people don't use the styles and the textual hierarchy, which screen readers really rely on, and it breaks up your text. So we are using Markdown, and I know this is going to sound complicated, and you're like, I'm out of here. I didn't sign up to learn another language, but I'm going to show you what it does first, and then I'm going to show you kind of the shortcuts for it. But Markdown is this like kind of computer nerdy language where you can say like, so if we're talking about if statements, we could say like conditionals. And when you put that £1 that's like equivalent to H1 or the, style 1. And then if you wanted to do style 2, you would say like £2 and have like more things. So you could say like if statements, and £3 gives you I don't know, whatever else you're going to type. So that gives you some textual hierarchy for screen readers and also kind of like to break text up. But this is really just the beginning of it, because you can do all these tabs. So I'm going to wipe out all this stuff and show you kind of like the quick, easy way. This is what we built on it. And this was not presented last year because last year was like we were kind of in the infancy of it. But this is what the quick guide is. When you click on it, you can kind of look through here and be like, oh, I'm interested in, say, an accordion or a tab. So you click on accordions, and it tells you kind of like what the shorthand is. But if that's too much or you're not used to it yet, you can just click on this copy button. And that copy button copies it into your clipboard, and you can just paste it in here. So this is, in this particular case, this is 3 accordions. And if you look at it, you can see, okay, so the first item, that's 3 carats, and the second item is 3 carats, and another item is 3 carats. So if you wanted to add another accordion, you just do like 3 carats, and then whatever text you want, and then whatever you have in there. And I know it looks expanded here, but let me show you how you go from this site into Brightspace. And by the way, you can change the colors. I color code all my courses. So if you want to do it in my Python colors or I teach an ed tech class, then red is the color that we use. So you just hit this copy HTML, and then you go to whatever course you want to put it into. And I'm going to scroll down here. I'm just going to put in my sandbox course. And we have a little module here for today. And I'm just going to upload this, create a file, and I'm going to wipe out that stuff and just literally paste whatever we copied from before. When you hit save, now we do need to give it a title, and I'll hit save. So now when you look at it, it's got those collapsible containers that we just made. So I'm going to hop on back over here just to show you that it is not collapsed when you're building it here, but it is collapsed when it renders in Brightspace. And the reason we don't have it collapsing here is because you kind of want to like preview it and see what it looks like. So that's why it looks a little bit different there. And then you can come back and say like, oh, well, I really also wanted to have like a tab and like a tab window, like I showed you with the YouTube video and the slideshow. So what you could do is come back over the quick guide and say like, okay, well, we're done with accordions. I'm more interested in the tabs. And again, like it gives you the vernacular to use, tabs and tab. And then it gives you actually like an example here. But I'm just going to hit the copy button. I guess I don't really need to understand how that works, because all I'm going to do is copy it or paste it in. And you can see, if you kind of like reverse engineer this, it has tabs AAA, BBB, CCC. These are just text or placeholders. And then the text to go with AAA, the text to go with BBB, and the text to go with CCC. But as we're going through this, I just want to make it clear, we did not create markup language or markdown language. In fact, markdown language has been around for a long, long time. And Google Docs supports markdown language as well. In fact, it's the only way to get like italics and stuff in comments in Google Docs. So if I wanted to say like, this is cool. This literally is markdown, where you have stars. And when you hit comment, it turns it to bold. So I just want to show you that like markdown is not anything that we invented. It's just something we are using for this specific tool. So now let's say that we only wanted to have 2. Okay, so I'll get rid of the C and I'll get rid of that stuff. So now we have text to go with AA and text to go with BBB. Maybe I want a YouTube video in AAA. So I'm just going to go to share, and you can put text, you can put images, you can put whatever you want in there, but I'm just going to copy that text. And instead of text to go with AAA, I'm just going to paste that from YouTube. That's the embed code. And then in the BBB, maybe we want to put this presentation in here. So I'm just going to go to share, and basically what you're looking for is embed code in the iframes. And so like any Quizlet has it, Vimeo has it, everything has the HTML tag to embed. And then instead of text to go with BBB, I'm just going to paste that. So now, and again, it looks a little wonky because we can see both of them at the same time. But if I hit copy HTML, come back over to my course, which is over here, come back over here, and I'm just going to edit HTML. And hit save and close. So this is what it looks like here. Now we have, and I probably should have put a space in between there, but now we have both the accordion and also the tabs all on one page, and we can inject whatever content we want in there. Now I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute, because I want to say a few things like this. One thing is that I know it seems complicated and it seems hard, but everyone that we show this to has had that reaction. And after you try it for a week or two, you're like, oh, this really isn't that bad. Like, it's a little bit easier. And I recommend like start small. Start with learning how to bold and do italics. And then you're like, oh, and then worry about the Jumbotron. And then you can like really ease your way in there. So we'll be releasing video tutorials for all this too. But I just wanted to make sure that I showed kind of the promise of what it can do before we go any further. And the things I showed you were as complicated as it gets. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. And if you were at CIT, then you may have seen the Creator Plus that Brightspace had demoed. And I think SUNY wound up passing on it. But this is 50% of what that Plus does, the Creator Plus, because it allows you to do all this formatting, and you can do images, and you can embed HTML if you know HTML, or if you care to learn. So down the road, we will also be doing interactives, and I actually don't even know what interactives Creator Plus has, but I have an interest in doing, say, like inline multiple choice questions, where much like H5P, some of those interactives where you can just do like a check your understanding real quick right there within the content. So are there any questions before I go further?
Dave, I did have someone actually ask a question outside of the webinar here. Sure. About how is this relative to H5P, like ease of use, or why should somebody maybe try this over that? And then there are 2 questions coming in the chat after that.
Okay. So 2 things. Does it do a good text wrap? So Gene, great question. This is actually designed to be both accessible and also mobile. So I think, so this is what it looks like on mobile, where it will have,
We're not saying the screen anymore, just so you know.
Oh, well, that's going to make it really, really hard for you to see then. It was designed. In fact, the real reason Aaron designed the software is because he was like, in Blackboard, like it just doesn't even look good on mobile. So this is designed to be responsive. So you can see that it still is responsive. Everything collapses. Well, except for this, because this iframe, I didn't make it web mobile when I pasted it in. I should have. But the text does wrap, and this is 110%. And then if you have images, it will flow around the images. So this is primarily designed to be responsive. And then there was a question about how does this mesh with campus branding and templates? So I guess it depends on what you mean by that. So let me show you, because you can certainly, this software, you can do whatever you want with it. So you can make templates. In fact, all my course, every single piece of every course I teach. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes,
Yep.
you are. Yep.
Okay. Every single thing that I've ever taught, so I'll just go to this portal class, is wrapped into, I save like all the text files. So for instance, this is what it would look like. And then I can just copy all that and paste it. So this is kind of like what my operating systems looks like. So when it comes to branding, I think if you wanted to load your color scheme up, we could do that. And there are ways like over here where you can have templates. So this is basic. So this is a template that exists within the software. So like theoretically, you could work with someone, and it's very, very, it's all it is like HTML. It's just one document. So you go in there and you can make all these templates so that people can have them on your campus. So you could, like embed an image. If you embed an image by URL, then it can be everywhere in your course, in your templates. So this does play well like that. And Aaron, I think there was another question you had asked.
Yes. So will this work outside the GLE? So for example, UB has their own instance. And so since this is HTML, I would imagine. Yes.
So this is, and UB is still using Brightspace, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is designed, we have a version for Blackboard. For all you nerds out there in the audience, the way this works is it latches on to whatever cascading style sheets, whatever CSS the LMS has or the DLE has. So it turns out that Brightspace actually uses Bootstrap, which is kind of like the industry standard. So we were able to do some really, really wild things with it. Blackboard did not. But this will, if you have any Brightspace, it intentionally looks for the CSS in Brightspace. But there also is a standalone HTML. So like even if you just want to make a web page, you could do your own standalone. And then when you copy it, let me see if I can paste it in this text file here. Then it would actually have the HTML for a website. So although I think your mileage may vary right now, that's been like a secondary goal to make it do standalone HTML. But in playing with Brightspace, we've determined that there's a need to have outside Brightspace formatting. So that's back on the table.
I think you're caught up.
Okay, good. So I think probably what would make sense is to show you, I think what I'd like to show you is just like take a tour of some of the stuff that we've made. And again, in all my content, every single piece of content I've ever made, I share publicly on GitHub. And one of the reasons why this might be better than H5P, and actually you have to pardon my ignorance about H5P. I had thought it was just for interactives like multiple choice questions, slideshows, things like that. But that question makes me think that perhaps there's also a design element to it that I was unaware of. But be that as it may, this paradigm gives us some flexibility that both Creator Plus don't give us and H5P don't give us, in that this text, I can share it in a Google Doc, I can share it in an email, and then I can share it in a Google Drive so that everyone in my department or my institution has access to this. And then if they want to change the colors, they want to change what video is embedded, they want to change some text, they have it. Now with H5P, all the content actually lives on the H5P server. So you can't easily, I don't think, you can't easily share it all that well. And that's the same with Creator Plus. You can share the HTML, I suppose, but unless someone has access to your course. And in case you haven't figured this out yet, and maybe this is just something we're experiencing at FLCC, but if I go to export some content in my course and give it to someone else in the department, even if I only check the bits of content that I want to export, it actually under the hood, and you can look at the log for this and you can see it, it actually exports everything. So when you import it, it very well might override things like your teaching module, or your like Meet a Teacher or About Me or whatever it's called. This right here gets overridden anytime someone imports things, even if this isn't checked, even if the teacher profile is not checked. So there are some weird things where on any export and import, you get these weird artifacting. And also you cannot have emoji in a title when you export the course because the emoji are not rendered well. So we've run into like these small edge cases where importing and exporting doesn't work quite as you want. Whereas if you have your markdown, you have 100% control over it. It's much easier to share. So that's one of the things we found is true with the software, and it's kind of like a happy accident. And I'm going to start from scratch because I just want to show you kind of the basics real quick. And I'm going to go up to Brightspace web page file. So we'll just say like we're making some content for the day, and maybe we have a heading, whatever the heading is. And let me just get some dummy text in here. I'll just grab one paragraph. If you want to make something bold, like this is how you make bold items bold. You just have to put the two oops, I'm sorry. That's italics. Bold is two stars. So maybe I should have started with this because this is a little bit less threatening and less scary, where you just surround what you want with bold and it becomes bold. And by the way, if you don't remember that, okay, just click on the quick guide, and under the basics, you will find like bold, italics, how to do like all these things. And if you look at bold, it's like put this before and after. This is an example right here. And so we don't have the copy paste here because we have the examples right there. And then you saw me do it for italics. So if you want bold and italics, well, then you're going to need three asterisks to make it bold and italics. If you want it just to be italics, just get rid of all but one of those asterisks, and that makes it italic. So I would say the easiest thing to learn are what we call the Jumbotron, where it's just caret, caret, and then heading 1. And if you can do heading 1, you can do heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, heading 6. You just like do as many of those. So this is heading 4. And then bold and italics. Those are great ways to start. And then if you want to get fancy, you're like, oh gosh, I really want to do columns because I want column text. Well, you come up here, and that's going to be under columns and lists. And if you want 2 columns, I'm just going to copy this instead of looking at the code. This is the left column. This is the right column. And I'm just going to put a whole bunch of text right there and a whole bunch of text on the right column. And then underneath it, maybe we'll have a little bit more text so you can kind of see that that it renders how you would think it would. And then once you get into a situation where it collapses more than you kind of want it to, then it will stack because it's responsive. So that's how you would do columns. And honestly, like this does most of the stuff, knowing how to do the headings, knowing how to do the Jumbotron, and knowing how to do like italics and bold, and then kind of being brave enough to really just try out, kick the tires on some of these things like, oh, multiple columns, a standalone box, things like that. Where we use this in practice, this is also, and maybe I'm a bit of a purist for web design, but one of the problems that we experienced in Brightspace was if you have if you have, let's say we're in here, if you have an assignment in your content, so if I go into this subfolder right here, it's really easy for things to get lost because here's a presentation. You have to click on the presentation to see it. But the assignments in Brightspace by default render in line. So if you have a particularly long assignment, it's right there. And then you have like a reading, but that's sandwiched by this other assignment. So it was really easy to get lost. And we were like, we actually, that's something we don't like, that the assignments and they render in line as do quizzes, but other content doesn't render in line. So the way we solved around that was we now, instead of putting an assignment, we still create the assignment, but we don't put it in the space here in our course. I call this the feed. I don't know what it's called, but this is the same assignment you just saw right here, this infographic. All we did was make an HTML page that basically had, it was the same exact thing, where it had this like beautiful thing that took up a lot of space. But at the end, we just put a link, a quick link to submit the work. So this actually brings you to the assignment. So this is called a call out box. And every single one of my assignment descriptions has this call out box that says, click here to submit your work. And again, what that buys you is clarity in your stream here, in your feed, because there's no ambiguity. You don't have some things taking up a ton of space and some things taking up no space at all. And to do that, and this is actually really scary, because when in this particular course, if I wanted to do that, I would have to go here and go to delete topic. And that's scary because you're like, no, this is an assignment I'm deleting, but it's not. So if you delete the topic, by default, it keeps the assignment in the course. And then what I would do is come up here, create a web page file of that particular assignment. In fact, I can show you what that looks like. That's in the technical writing. That was the infographic. So let me just grab this right here since we're talking about it. I'm going to copy that text, come back over here, paste it, and change it to portal. Copy that. Wipe out what we had, hit save. Make sure there's a title. And then before I actually hit this like save and close button, I have to go all the way down to the bottom. And I want to link this using this link button, not the other link button that Brightspace has. So I'm going to use this link button and go to my assignments and find out wherever that particular, the infographic right there. And then save and close. So effectively all we have is HTML pages, like that third thing, create HTML content or create a web page or whatever it's called now. And that will link to the assignment. So now, well, I guess what I'll have to do is, I think it defaults to coming to the bottom. Now I'll just grab this, bring it up top wherever it goes. Right there. So this, now when you click on this, it will actually bring you to the assignment. And then you, or to that description, and then this will bring you to the assignment. You can still see the rubrics and everything, but we really like this a lot better, where you can see everything all at once. So students get a sense of how much work there is in reading and assignments and labs in each module just by looking at it, instead of having to like scroll and have everything all in line. And some of it you have to click on, some of it you don't. It's just really, it sends some confusing messages to students.
So Dave, there's a question about this that
yeah.
I think is right on timing. So if you're creating that link to the assignment with the HTML pages, the question is about updating it for each time you teach the course. Do you have to continue to update those call outs?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So far, well, from the fall to the spring, it seemed to work. So I'm thinking that it'll work for everything. Were there any other questions? That's a good question. By the way, that was a huge fear of mine too, but it wound up working well.
I think you addressed the rest. Dave, were there any other part of your question that wasn't addressed? Just wanted to check. Okay, all set.
And I do want to say, this this tool, so like I know that I'm super nerdy and I keep all my markdown in different text files, and I happen to use GitHub, but I know there are some people using Google Drive for it or just using a whole bunch of notebook files. Hot off the press, when you copy the HTML, actually, and I'm going to do something much smaller. So I'll just do like, I'm going to do a Jumbotron. I'm going to say Aaron, and we'll have whatever heading and then just some text here. This is the markdown that you would want to share with other people that are teaching the class. When you copy that HTML and paste it into Brightspace, it by default keeps the markdown in it. So if I paste this HTML, if I come over here and I edit the HTML here, it will paste in HTML. And by the way, this came from Jeremy Case at MCC. He was like, boy, it sure would be slick if you could have the HTML embed, have the markdown embedded in it. So it renders fine. That's exactly what we would want it to be. But then if you want to modify this, and modifying text is always hard because you might not capture like the right font and the right size and all that. So if you want to modify it, come to edit HTML, copy all of that. And I'm just going to delete this just so you can see that there's nothing in there. But I'm going to paste in what I just copied from Brightspace, and it strips out all the HTML and restores the markdown. So now you can modify this however you want to modify it, and copy this HTML, come back all the way over here, paste it, and you can see the markdown is trapped in there, but not trapped in there, but it's contained in there. So that's a really nifty way where now it kind of obsoletes the need to have a mechanism for storing all your markdown, because it literally is right here. And one of the reasons that's nice is because if you share the course with someone, so for instance, this particular course, a number of people teach it, I can just give them the course, and they can, if they want to change this because maybe they want to change some of the words or there's images or YouTube videos, they can just edit the HTML, copy the HTML from here, copy it from here, and bring it down into this tool right here. And it will it goes both ways. So that's a really neat, slick way to also kind of transfer the details to people. So then you can be like, oh, I did want that call out box with that external link, alt. So then you can highlight this. So like maybe you forgot to do that. So that's why I really encourage, if you use this tool, go all in and start using the markdown and using this quick guide, because that will really help you control your content. If you want columns, use the columns. If you want images, use the images. Because you really want to always have this be your ground source of truth, not the HTML. You don't want to come into here and start editing text this way. I mean, you can, but you're likely to have formatting issues. Just like, and that's not a shortcoming of this software. That's a shortcoming of text editors. It was really bad in Blackboard. Brightspace is a lot better with it, though. And Aaron, do I have time to show one more thing? Hello? Am I still on?
You do. You absolutely do.
Okay.
Yeah, you're about 7 minutes.
Nice. Sweet. So I do want to show you another tool that we created, and all of this is at learnbrightspace.com. That's a website I have, and I started blogging last semester, but then I realized after I wrote some of these blogs that I was like, I really need to kick the tires before I start blogging more. So I have a list of all these things that we've discovered that have emerged in the past year. So this blog will start up again. But at learnbrightspace.com, if you go to tools, the markdown styler is the thing that I've been showing you today. But another tool that's helpful is this Google Doc linker. And here's what that does. So let's say you have a Google Doc. In this particular case, I have this lab for my cybersecurity class. If I copy the URL of that Google Doc and paste it, this software will do a number of things. It will say like, oh, if you want a thumbnail, embed this code right here. So you can, and this is true, you don't need to use this markdown software. You can embed this pure HTML, you can embed it anywhere. But the real nice thing is, and it generates a QR code if you're interested in it. But the real nice thing is you can, this is oftentimes how I use this tool. I copy this. It will automatically make a link that's a button to copy the Google Doc, download it as a Word or download it as a PDF. So then when I come back over, and I'll actually just paste it right in here. I don't care. I'll go to edit HTML. I'm just going to paste all that code right in there. And you can see that it actually embeds the a Google Doc, and it allows students can download the Word or the PDF, which is really slick because if you change this PDF, so say this is your course outline. In fact, my course outline, I haven't changed the file in years. I just use one Google Doc. And the course outline is what we use at FLCI, like a syllabus or course information sheet. So this is a Google Doc that I embedded like 2 years ago, and I never have to like re-upload this file. All I have to do is change the Google Doc. So next semester, I'll go into the Google Doc and change it to spring 2024, change my office hours, all sorts of stuff like that. I never have to modify this particular content right here because it's good to go. It's like set and forget. So if you happen to use Google Docs for some of the stuff you do, I would encourage you to think about embedding it and making links so that students can make a copy of it or download it as a PDF or a Word file. It just makes it a little bit easier for people. And by the way, you can do the same thing for Google Sheets and Google Slides. It's a little different, and I haven't built out that tool yet, but that tool is on my punch list so that you can embed a presentation, embed a Google Sheet. Because one of the things that I like doing is embedding Google Sheets. So if I go to any particular chapter, say this right here is a Google Sheet that's embedded. And so I never have to change this. I just go to the actual Google Sheet. And change like the due dates or something in there. So this is what's being embedded. So next semester, I'll have to go through and change all these dates here. And that's what students will see. One of the last things that I want to share with you is, in all of this, by the way, let me put my email address up there before I forget. Because I know that like there are some small technical issues you might run into, and I just want to let you know I'm available to help. If you ever have questions, again, if you are looking for any presentation at your college for, your Center for Teaching and Learning or whatever analog you have, I'm happy to do that. I can zoom in and just kind of like show you or answer questions, have a work session, whatever you want, have a party. But the last thing that I wanted to show you real quick, because this is kind of like something that's good to know. If you have a Google Doc, and let me just edit this HTML here. Oftentimes what I see people do with Google Docs is if they want to link to them, you'd say like, click here for the Google Doc. And people will, highlight that and hit this link button and paste the link in there, which is fine. Just so you know, if you go to the end of that link, and normally it ends in edit. If you change that to, well, let's see what it looks like here. So if you hit OK, when it says click here for the Google Doc, when you click on it, it will, I forgot Brightspace does this. Brightspace actually embeds links if it can. So let me show you here. If you want to make this a link in Markdown, this is basically what you would do. And it would make this an actual link to the Google Doc. But if you chop off the end after that last slash and change it to copy, now when you go to it, it will force a copy. So whoever clicks on that link can get their own copy of it. That's a nice trick that's kind of like hidden within the URLs of Google Docs. So that's kind of also kind of a neat thing to know. And by the way, this right here, which again you get from learnbrightspace.com, if you go to Google Doc Linker, it will give you to link to force a copy as opposed to just linking to the copy. So I think I'm gonna stop and see if there's any other questions. Oh, thank you for putting my email back in there.
I know that you've shown me that Google Doc trick before, and it's really handy.
And there's other ones too where you can change it to be like export (format equals PDF, and it will take a snapshot of that Google Doc when you click on it and download it as a PDF.
Yeah.
I'm really serious about like helping out other schools in or out of SUNY. Like if you have questions about this, if you want to kind of like pull a thread on the Google Docs, because I do a lot of Google Doc stuff where I update my office hours once in Google Sheets and it gets pushed out to all my courses and I never have to touch that again. Things like that. I'm always happy to help out. Oh, thanks, Jamie. We are best friends. I can't wait to meet you.
I love it.
And
Feel free
I may as well,
unmute if you have a question for Dave. Chat, unmute in our last couple minutes here. Yeah.
and while that's happening, I do want to show you. Oftentimes, I don't know if you know about this, but in Brightspace, if you want to have multiple courses open, if you hold Control when you click, and this is true on any link, it'll open up in another tab, and it's perfectly fine in Brightspace to have multiple tabs open. I know in Blackboard they're like, oh, you probably shouldn't do that, but in Brightspace you really can do it, except for the gradebook. Don't have the gradebook open in two different things. And all these thumbnails here, by the way, these are Google Drawings. One of the really slick things with the Google Drawings is I kind of like mute out the future ones. So the course is open from the beginning of the semester. And you can see this is what the thumbnail looks like. So next Monday, when this chapter opens, I'm just going to send that to the back. If you do right click, order, send to back. So now when I refresh this page, sometimes it takes like up to 60 seconds for it to refresh, but chapter 8 will be live now. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait another minute or two, but any other questions? And certainly email me if you have questions.
Thank you, Dave. Quick tutorial, but awesome technology and really fun, I think, for folks to get in there and try to play around with. And then, of course, reach out to Dave when you get stuck. But
and Aaron, I think that's the best piece of advice is like experiment with it, play with it. Yeah. Start out small, do bold and italics, and then before you know it, you'll be doing some of the more complicated things.
Right, exactly. You'll build your confidence as you go, and you see it, creating those things.
Yeah.
Along the way. Awesome. So I just want to wrap us up for the interest of time, but I popped in the chat the link to our schedule and recordings for this week, as well as the USDLA site. The USDLA is the organizer for National Distance Learning Week, and they promote the SUNY webinars on their site as well. So it's a really nice partnership to be able to extend what SUNY is doing to a national audience. So thank you to Dave. I always learn something new from you, Dave, and I've known you quite a long time. So that's always fun for me to tune in.
I see Ann Gilbert's in there too. So yeah. MCC representing. And if you want to tell Jeremy about that HTML thing, he doesn't know about it yet because we just installed that this morning. But you might want to reach out to him about it.
That's funny. We'll send him the recording.
Cool. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Take care, and we hope to see you in another webinar this week.
Bye, Andrea Gilbert. Bye, everyone else.